Welcome to the Deep Dive. We tailor these deep dives to what you want to know. Today, we're looking at what a second Trump administration might mean for the economy, especially for small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Oh.
We've got a podcast episode called Economic Vibes and an article, The Trump Effect 2025, to help us figure this out.
Interesting.
And remember, we're just speculating here, not making any guarantees or anything. But by looking at these predictions, we can kind of get a glimpse into what a Trump 2.0 economy might look like. And more importantly, what you can do to prepare.
Right, exactly. If you know what's coming, you can get ready for it. It's like that saying, what is it?
Forewarned is forearmed.
Yes, forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about the economy, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. The Economic Vibes podcast used this phrase that really caught my attention. Tariff 2.0.
Tariff 2.0.
Yeah. Remember how much Trump loved tariffs during his first term? Well, it sounds like those policies might be making a comeback.
Oh, interesting.
They talked about higher costs for imported goods, which, yeah, if those tariffs are back, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But tariffs are tricky, right? They can be good and bad at the same time. It's like a double-edged sword.
Right.
So, yeah, imported goods might get more expensive, which could impact your bottom line, but it could also help domestic businesses.
Exactly. The podcast had this great example about imagine you're a toy store owner. All of a sudden, those action figures you import are costing you more.
Right. But
Yeah. Think about it. This could make your store the place to go for toys made in America.
I see what you mean.
Made in the USA could be your competitive edge, you know?
That's a really good point. A lot of shoppers really like products that are made in America. I think we could see more of that if this happened.
For sure. So we're maybe relying less on imports, and American-made products are getting a boost. Now, both of our sources pointed to something else we might see in a second Trump term.
What's that?
Tax cuts.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely known for being pro-business. Like, look at what he did with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017.
Right, exactly. And the Trump Effect 2025 article highlights data from that time showing a lot of small businesses had more confidence, they were reinvesting more, and hiring more. So what if a second Trump term meant it was easier to get capital for your business?
Yeah, that's a big deal. When businesses feel confident, they do more, they invest, they hire, and the whole economy grows.
Right. So the question is, will we see that happen again? And if we do, what will it mean for you and your business? Would you use those tax savings to expand or buy new equipment or finally hire that extra person you need?
It's definitely exciting to think about the possibilities. But we have to consider the downsides, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, often tax cuts mean we add more to the national debt, and that can have big consequences down the line.
So it's like, good now, maybe bad later.
Exactly. That's why you have to plan carefully. No matter what happens with the economy, having a good financial plan will always help you be ready.
So less taxes, maybe more demand for your product. But will it be easier to actually run your business? That's where deregulation comes in. And this could really change things, especially for your industry. Both sources seem to think a second Trump administration would mean fewer regulations for businesses, especially small businesses and startups.
Right. The idea is to get the government out of the way so businesses can move faster, be more agile.
Yeah. The Trump Effect 2025 had this analogy I really liked. Less regulation is like having a lighter backpack while you're hiking.
It's a good one.
You can go farther and faster, but you still have to be careful, right?
Yeah. Less regulation can be good, but we need to think about what we might be giving up.
Right. The article specifically talked about construction, manufacturing, and energy. Think of how different your business might be if some of those regulations went away.
It's pretty interesting to think about. In industries where there are tons of regulations, less regulation could save a lot of money. Things could get done faster, and maybe companies could even move into new markets.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Would you be okay with less oversight in exchange for being able to move faster?
It's a tough question, right? And the answer probably depends on your specific business and, your values.
Yeah, for sure. There's no easy answer. You have to weigh the potential benefits against the potential risks and then make a decision that fits your business.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about trade. Remember those tariffs we talked about? Well, Trump's known for being a tough negotiator, right? And both of our sources think those hard-nosed trade policies could be back.
Yeah, he definitely left his mark on international trade.
To put it mildly. So what could this mean for your business? Well, like we said, tariffs can make imported goods more expensive.
Exactly. And that could affect your supply chain. especially if you use a lot of imported parts.
But here's the flip side. If imports are more expensive, American-made products could become more popular. Remember the Trump effect 2025. It specifically said that businesses that make their products in America could do really well. That's definitely something to think about. If customers start buying more products made in America, companies that make those products could grow a lot.
Exactly. Think about your own business. Would these trade policies change how you get your supplies? Would you change how you make your product, or maybe even change your prices?
Those are great questions. It's important to think about those challenges now before they happen so you're ready.
Now, before we get too excited about all this, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. We've talked about a lot of possibilities, but it's important to think about all of this in context.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in these what-ifs, but we're not fortune tellers. Nobody really knows what the future holds.
Right. We can't predict the future.
Exactly. But we can learn from what's already happened, right?
Okay.
So let's look back at the economy during Trump's first term. Do you remember how the Trump effect 2025 talked about businesses being more confident and investing more after those tax cuts in 2017?
Yeah, they had that data from the National Federation of Independent Businesses.
Right. And if you look at how the whole economy was doing back then, unemployment went down, GDP went up, the stock market was doing great.
So it seems like those policies really got the economy going, at least for a while.
That's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's really complicated. There's so much that goes into whether the economy is doing well, so we can't just say one policy or one president was the reason.
Right.
It's like a puzzle where every piece looks the same.
Haha. Yeah.
So we have to be careful about assuming that what happened before will happen again. The reality is much more complicated, you know.
Okay, so let's be a little bit more realistic about all this.
Right.
What are some of the risks or downsides we need to think about, not just the good stuff?
Well, take those tax cuts we were talking about.
Yeah.
They can give the economy a quick boost, but they often lead to more national debt. Remember Economic Vibes mentioned that? When people have more money, they spend more, which can be good for the economy, but it can also increase the national debt.
Yeah. Short-term gain, but maybe long-term pain.
Exactly. And that bigger national debt can cause problems later on. Things like higher interest rates, inflation, and maybe even the government having to cut important services.
So as a business owner, you have to weigh those potential tax savings against, the possibility that the economy might not be so stable down the road.
Right. And that's why it's so important to have a good financial plan for your business. No matter what happens in the economy, being smart with your money will always help you be prepared.
Totally agree. Now let's get back to deregulation. We said that having fewer regulations might be good for businesses. But what could go wrong?
Do you remember that analogy about the lighter backpack?
Yeah.
Even if your backpack is lighter, you still have to be careful where you step. One thing we need to be really careful about is protecting the environment. Relaxing those regulations could have a big impact on the planet.
Yeah, that's a big issue for a lot of people.
It is. And look, we're not going to get into politics here, but there are good arguments on both sides. Some people say too many regulations hurt the economy. Others say we need strong environmental laws to protect the planet.
It's about finding that middle ground.
Exactly. How do we help the economy grow and be responsible about the environment?
Right. And that balance is important for other things too, like worker rights.
Yeah. How do we make sure businesses are doing well, but also make sure workers are being treated fairly? It's tough.
It is tough. Okay, let's go back to tariffs one more time. We said they can help protect American businesses, but they can also backfire.
Right. Trade wars are a real possibility. One country puts tariffs on another country's goods, then that other country retaliates, and it can get out of control pretty quickly.
Everybody loses.
Yeah. Prices go up for everyone, the economy might slow down, and it can even cause problems between countries. It's a delicate situation.
So tariffs are a tool, but you have to be careful how you use them.
Definitely. You have to think about the risks. Now, something I noticed is that both of the sources we looked at for this deep dive are pretty positive about what could happen under a second Trump administration. They're focused on the good stuff, like how great the economy could be.
Yeah, they're definitely optimistic.
But it's important to remember that no one can predict the future perfectly.
Right.
There's so many things that could affect the economy, things we don't even know about yet.
So how should people be thinking about these predictions? How can they get ready for whatever might happen?
I think the most important thing is to be informed and be ready to adapt.
Okay.
Pay attention to what's going on in the economy, but also be flexible. You might need to change your plans as things develop.
Be prepared, stay informed, and be ready to change course if you need to.
Exactly.
So we've talked about a lot. Tariffs, tax cuts, deregulation, trade wars. What does all this mean for you if you're a small business owner?
Well, a second Trump term could mean big changes for the economy. Good changes and bad changes.
Yeah.
And those changes would definitely affect entrepreneurs like you.
It's like we're getting ready for a roller coaster ride.
Uh-huh. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And like any good roller coaster, you want to be prepared.
Right. So let's do a quick recap. On the plus side, we might see those tax cuts we talked about. That would mean you'd have more money to invest and grow your business. And deregulation could make it easier to run your business. Less red tape, you know.
Exactly.
And if people start buying more American-made products, that could really help businesses that make their products here.
Yeah, absolutely. But we can't forget about the potential downsides. Like those tax cuts could lead to bigger national debt later on.
Right, right.
And if there's less regulation, that might mean we're not doing enough to protect the environment or workers. And if Trump's tough on trade, we could see more trade wars. And that could mess up supply chains.
I think a lot of good stuff could happen, but some not so good stuff could happen too. So to deal with all this, you need to have a good plan. You need to be able to change, and you need to be able to see the opportunities and the challenges.
Exactly. You know, the Economic Vibes podcast asked a really good question. They said, with all these potential changes, what can you do right now to get ready? To get your business ready for a future that's probably going to be full of surprises.
That's the big question, isn't it? What can you actually do today to prepare? Like maybe go back and look at your business plan, or think about different suppliers, or maybe get better at negotiating.
Yeah. Or even just connect with other people in your industry. Talk to them, share ideas, especially when things are so uncertain. You know, you can learn a lot from each other. And you'll feel more confident knowing you're not going through this alone.
Definitely. We're all in this together. And, you know, entrepreneurs are really good at being tough and creative and figuring things out, even when the economy is unpredictable. Those are the skills that will help you succeed.
Well said. But don't just listen to all this and do nothing. Really think about how these things could affect your business. And then do something about it. Take action.
Exactly. Don't be afraid of what might happen. Use that entrepreneurial spirit of yours and get ready for whatever's coming. And we want to hear from you. What really stood out to you? What are you still thinking about? Let us know on social media, and let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and be ready for anything.
This has been The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into something you want to know more about.